Welcome to the Luxembourg Space Agency. Over the last decade or so, the space industry in Luxembourg has really blossomed to where we are now one of the global leaders in this industry. And so, today we're going to be talking to Dr. Marc Serres, the CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency. Over his last 20-year career here in Luxembourg, Marc has really championed the cause of this industry, leading it to the heights that it is at today. In today's discussion, we're going to talk to him about what makes Luxembourg so special, why the space industry has found such a nice home here, and where this path leads us. Let's go hear from Marc. Marc, thank you very much for being with us. I'm very excited to have you on the Luxembourg Minds podcast. Space is now a priority sector for Luxembourg. And since its formation over the last 5 years, the Luxembourg Space Agency has overseen massive growth in this sector to where today we have over 80 companies operating in Luxembourg. So it's phenomenal growth, and we are very, very proud of the work you and the agency has done. Can I ask you to share a little bit about this meteoric journey, maybe highlighting some of the pivotal moments and your path to becoming CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency?
Yeah, maybe I go a bit earlier in the history. In the administration, the thing started around 2005 when Luxembourg became a member state of the European Space Agency. And at that time, I was working in a company developing products on the ground segment, antennas, in fact, for satellite communications. And the government opened a vacancy for a position to interact and to manage the relationship with ESA.
Yeah.
And so that was an opportunity for me. I took it, and I have been, selected as, at the end, I think it was the very first position full-time dedicated to that. Even though my boss at that time was already somehow working on the subject, it was not full-time. And that has developed very strong over the years. So that was at the Ministry of Research. In 2013, we moved to the Ministry of the Economy. Okay. It became a small team within the Ministry of the Economy. This team also in 2018 became the Space Agency, still inside the ministry. And in 2021, we have been given our own legal statute. Okay. And so since 2021, we are now also an independent entity. Well, I say independent. The reality is, of course, that we are strongly governed still by the Ministry of the Economy. We are mandated to do work for the Ministry of the Economy, and we are fully funded by the government as well. So even though we seem to be sort of, a spin-off, of course, we are still very close to the ministry. So, and I would say for me that was an incredible journey, especially when moving from the Ministry of Research to the Ministry of Economy. That's the point where the new minister at that time was looking into the topic of space resources.
Yes.
And that was, that was the case for him. As for us, everyone was surprised by the idea that maybe Luxembourg could do something there. And that was extremely intriguing for us. And the minister was, I would say, bold enough to say, we will look into this file. And so I think we worked about 2 years on that, okay, under the radar, participating to conferences, talking with companies active in this domain, talking with NASA. I mean, the idea was, in fact, coming from people from NASA. And we started also a study at that point to understand also the regulatory challenge for Luxembourg. Yeah. And and that was, the moment when we decided, or the minister decided, that we would make that official. Okay. That was, the moment of our life, all those who worked on that, and that was fantastic at the end that it has become a real success already today, even though it's a long-term vision. Sure. It's not fully materialized, of course, sure, but the progress we have been able to do over the last 5 years is just extraordinary. So that was, very inspiring for me as well. That sort of after 8 years, there was, a sort of new momentum also in my career.
No, that's such a great story. It's very inspiring. You've had all these successes. Surely along the way you might have had some obstacles. Can you tell us about some of those challenges you faced and how you overcame them?
Well, the challenge is coming with each file that we are dealing with. You know, the companies are all different and all have different situations. I don't know if we had really one simple case where, you know, we just had to sign the check. I'm making it short, of course, but the reality is that we always have to work on it. And I would say recently, where, you know, the challenge is hard, really, because sometimes we have limited ways really to help, is on the investment. Okay. We have gone through a period now where investors are a bit quiet, I would say, with the geopolitical situation. Sure. And of course, this is putting very strong constraints or challenges on the companies as well. Yeah. And so we have been helping them a lot to come where they are. And at a certain point, well, you know, private investments need to come and join forces, if you like. And so those are difficulties where we always try to be creative and still, you know, find ways to help the companies. So I would say challenges is sort of daily work, and this is why the job is so exciting. If it would be sort of routine, it would not be for me.
I understand, but I'm glad that we have LSA and the government support to foster this growth in the industry. I'm going to take a double click on this, go a little bit deeper into yourself. You know, trying to get a sense for what's a typical day like in the life of the CEO of the Luxembourg Space Agency.
There are typical. I don't know if I really have a typical day, but either I'm here and at the office, and then I'm often in front of my screen to deal with my emails, as many people. And then of course I have a lot of meetings here with the team or with companies. But I'm also very often traveling. And so that's a part of the life where you are sitting in the airplane or on the train, or well, it's basically plane and train, or at the hotel in the evening, and and that's also very interesting because the days are full. I mean, either for meetings that I have in international organizations, I mean, a lot of meetings related to the European Space Agency, or missions. Missions can be either with a minister, without the minister. Sometimes we go with, the Grand Duke or his son. That's also very interesting because there we also have the opportunity to visit really companies or research institutes, and so this is a very enriching part also of the job. I don't have really 2 days that look exactly the same.
And I'm glad that we have you representing us in, against the world, showcasing what Luxembourg is doing in the space industry. I know, including your upcoming trip to the COP in Dubai. So I'm glad that we have you at the helm to represent us. Can I ask you about your journey here in Luxembourg? You've been here for 2 decades. Just curious about what brought you here. What started the journey?
Yeah, I have a bit of special path because I have never lived in Luxembourg. So I was born in Germany because my father was working there, and then his job brought him to Brussels. So I grew up basically in Belgium. I did also my studies there, and of course, when you are absent from the country such a long time, you also lose some sort of link. I think the only person still was there was my grandmother, and we came and we were coming regularly to Luxembourg, but it was just for my grandmother. I had no other links with Luxembourg, and I had the same perception as many people. This is just a country where you can work if you have, a master in finance or things like that. So that was a wrong perception. And my brother, he started working at SES, the country. And then one day he said, when I was finishing my PhD, he said, but they are looking for engineers here. You should try and look if there is something interesting. And it took me 1 week to have an interview with a company. And that was incredible. I never thought I would come and work in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
You know, and the second thing that's happened to me that I would have never imagined. My father is an entrepreneur, and I mean that was the spirit in the family, and I always thought I would have my own company one day, and then going one day work at the government administration was also something I would have never imagined. You know, it has never been an objective in my life. And so I have been a bit opportunistic through the journey, I would say, but it was so enriching. I mean, I absolutely do not regret the choices I made or the opportunities I took, and now I'm, you know, leading the agency. It's a bit like my own company, if you like, and so I can even say that somehow I made it. You know, the things I imagined when I was studying are materializing.
Very cool. Yeah, it does seem like you have a bit of an entrepreneurial drive here, taking the industry into areas that it hasn't explored before.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. This is a spirit we want here to, you know, cultivate, and we are there to support the company, so we need to understand them.
That's fantastic. What makes Luxembourg so special? Can you talk to us a little bit about the unique strengths and advantages that Luxembourg has that makes it such a good place for the space economy to thrive?
Yeah. Well, there are advantages that are not now directly linked to space, I would say. I think the fact that we are so open and multicultural, this is easing very much, you know, this international business, and space in particular has a strong international dimension. So I think this is fitting very well. And then there are also a lot of investments that support that.
Yeah.
And we see, for example, in space, a strong development in the use of data. For example, the European program Copernicus it's a huge source of data in the meantime.
Yes.
And having also at the same time in Luxembourg these long-term investments in IT infrastructures. You know, it started with the data centers, connectivity. Now we also have the high-power computing that is coming in, and also looking into quantum communication aspects. So all this is sort of a good foundation as well for space activities. And we have also a long tradition in satellite communication. So all this fits well together, and this is really creating a good mix here, a good foundation for all these activities. What is also unique, I would say, for Luxembourg is now also the specific importance of space in our policy. I think there is not many other countries where space is so high on the agenda. It's really one of the 6 priorities of the economy here in developing and diversifying the economy. And I don't think there is any other country where this is the case. And we have also this long-term commitment from the government. Whoever was, you know, sitting in the seat of the Prime Minister and the team, of course, of ministers, this is a support that started in the 80s when, you know, the idea was on the table to create the first commercial operator in Europe. And this is like this since the 80s. That means 40 years ago. And the spirit is still there, and I think this is really something that companies recognize, and they are interested also to see or to, you know, to be considered as an important part, you know, of the ecosystem. In other countries, then they are lost in something bigger, and it's difficult, you know, to progress. Here, we take care of them. It's really something that is close to our heart, and as usual, we are a small country. We have also short ways to act, so we can be agile on certain aspects. And I think this is something that is very much appreciated by the companies that come here.
That's great. It seems like there are multiple factors that have all come together, whether it's support from the government, investments, technological advances, and like you said, the ability to be agile in terms of regulation and help companies really find that growth. It's fantastic. You know, along this path that we're on, what comes next? Where are our biggest growth areas?
Well, that's not only depending on us. You know, we are working a lot bottom up. So it depends also on the ambition of the entrepreneurs.
Sure.
But what we see today, of course, there are certain trends. And definitely, I mentioned it already before, the use of data is a strong trend today. If you look into the history of space, it always has depended a lot on public financing and agencies, governments. In the 80s, with this wave, there was a first wave of commercialization with satellite communications becoming a real commercial market, which is, by the way, the only real commercial market in the space domain. We see now the emergence of other things coming, in particular the use of data for other sectors. And so this is now a topic on which we are putting much more efforts, is really to break the silo of space. So that space is not only there for space, but that space is used much more in other sectors.
Okay.
For finance sector, for example, this is now one of the topics we are looking more closely.
Okay.
Evidently, we have a big sector here, so we can also, talk with these stakeholders much easily, and maybe find ways, to create new services, include the data in existing things where, the financial sector has needs, no solution yet. But there are plenty of other sectors. I mean, agriculture, I think people have already seen that Earth observation data is used to follow the crops, the maturity of the crops, try to optimize, harvesting of the fields, etc. And so, I mean, there is really a long list of sectors where space can contribute, and we believe that there is a huge opportunity, and that's certainly one topic on which we work, where we hope to also see some, materialized results in the shorter term. Now, the other big topic is, of course, space resources. This remains a flagship of Luxembourg. We have really positioned ourselves in a certain leadership, even though we are small. But, I mean, again, this is the type of topic that no other country has brought so high in the agenda. And so here is, of course, this is much longer time. We don't expect now to have sort of a short-term return on that. But we are investing, we are creating connections with other countries, we are creating cooperation with other institutes, or trying already to attract companies doing some activities there. And so, you probably have seen around the world that today there is a sort of new momentum around exploration, and in particular the moon. So this is for us super important to be part of it, because the moon will be, really the first fields where we can test, demonstrate, and show the real value of using resources, for example.
It feels like, because we've prioritized this as a long-term endeavor, it gives us the ability to go deeper into areas that would otherwise be pressurized by the requirement to have short-term returns. And this allows us to go really, really in depth into some of these areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's very, very good. You mentioned some of the collaborative efforts that we have, working with other agencies, the ESA, NASA. Can you talk to us about some of these collaborations from a research standpoint, which helps us again to promote space-related initiatives?
Yeah, that's an interesting story, because before the initiative on space resources, we were not so active in looking for these collaborations. But what we had a very specific need at that time is to create or to gain some partners on this topic of space resources that would help us also to gain a certain credibility, that we are not isolated in the idea to push this topic. And that was the start of a lot of traveling and working, or let's say first creating awareness with other countries, and then deepening these discussions to a point where they were also realizing that there might be an opportunity there. And I think we have now a bit more than 20 agreements with other countries at different levels, either at governmental level or agency level. And very often, of course, the space resources topic is in it, and is sometimes the origin of this MOU, not always. And this is also something where we see some real collaborations taking place now. I can give the example of Korea, which expressed really a high interest in it, and so there is already there are 2 centers in Korea now that will work with ESRIC, so our research center specialized in this topic here in Luxembourg, and that's fantastic. That's fantastic. That those type of things happen now.
Okay, it sounds like there are all these exciting projects now coming in the pipeline, and more and more companies coming in, setting up. Is there any particular project or any particular development that you're very excited about that might be in the upcoming future?
Yeah, there is one I would say that is really incredible. Probably you know the company iSpace.
Uh-huh.
So iSpace is originally a Japanese company, and their original idea was to perform, the request by the Google X Prize, going to the surface of the moon with a rover and drive 500 meters, take pictures, etc. And that has developed incredibly to a point where the Japanese company now has developed a lander to go to the moon, and the Luxembourgish company has taken over the rover part.
Yeah.
And even though now their first mission was not successful to the very end of the mission, they have had a success over 80% of the mission. And this is, a lander that has been developed from scratch by a private entity, a startup, fully funded with private investment in 5 years.
It's incredible.
Who could have imagined that would be feasible? It's incredible what they did, and of course this is now probably more the Japanese team who can be rewarded for that. But now what is very exciting is that on the second mission that we all hope will be landing softly, there is a micro rover developed here in Luxembourg. And I'm super excited about this mission. They will launch now this year. In 2024. I'm already in 2024, but they will launch in 2024. They will have, I think, 5 or 6 months travel to the moon, and so in 2025 they will land on the moon. And if everything goes well, we will have the first equipment developed, manufactured here in Luxembourg on the surface of the moon. I can tell you this is super exciting.
That is an incredible story, and I've been tracking the development of iSpace as well. At the event, at the INSEAD event, they gave us a simulation. They've created a simulated environment where they've tried to see what the rover on the moon might look like, and we found out that this was actually very close to Luxembourg R. It was so amazing to know that this facility is here in Luxembourg, so close to us. They're making us proud. So
we all cross fingers.
Cross fingers. 2025 on the moon. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to move us now to the rapid fire section. This is our fun segment where I'm going to present you with a couple of options. There are no right or wrong answers. Just I'll let you pick one in the spur of the moment. But I'm going to try to put you in a little bit of a spot here. So the first question is, I'm going to give you a couple of options. Would you prefer to spacewalk in a spacesuit, or be the person piloting the spaceship from mission control?
I would say probably the one piloting.
Okay, from mission control here on Earth. All right.
I'm not sure. Well, going into space is, I fear, not something for me.
Okay.
I know, that a lot of people would like to do it. I'm not sure that that's for me.
You see all these movies with these guys in astronaut suits. I'm sure it's harder than it looks.
That's sure. That's sure.
All right. Would you prefer to have the first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, or be the person discovering a new habitable exoplanet?
Probably my scientific background would push me to the discovery of a new
exoplanet. Okay. If you were abducted by aliens and you had to perform a talent to prove humanity's worthiness, what would you choose to do? Like singing, dancing, telling jokes?
Probably singing, because this is something I did when I was young.
Okay.
Probably I need some training again.
Okay. What kind of singing were you doing?
I was in a choral.
Okay. Like a choir.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And well, it was sort of more classical music, but it was nice. I liked that very much.
Okay. As space exploration seems to become more mainstream right now, what do you think is going to be the next big space destination? The moon or the Mars?
Moon.
The moon, yeah.
First.
Yeah. And
but Mars as well. It's a matter of time.
It's a matter of time, yeah. But in 2025, hopefully, Luxembourg has presence on the moon.
Yeah.
Cool. I've left the hardest question for the end.
Okay.
Star Trek versus Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Straight answer. No debate there.
Maybe it's also a bit influenced by my kids, because this is something or a movie that we have looked a few times already with the kids, and that's a nice movie. Yeah.
Cool, fantastic. Well, this was great. I'm going to move us now to the advice section. I have a couple of questions for you to seek your advice on things related to the industry. For our listeners that are not in the space industry, but seek to know more about the different things that are ongoing in Luxembourg, what's the best way to keep up to date?
Well, so we are very active on the social media, so the people can definitely follow what we do. Okay. We try to share a lot of information also on our website. Okay. Yeah, I think that would be the sort of public way
so your
of
website,
accessing.
And you said LinkedIn?
Well, LinkedIn as well. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Okay, super.
So I think we're on Twitter, on Facebook, I think as well. Instagram.
Okay,
so,
great.
And LinkedIn, of course.
Super. Well, our viewers should go follow you guys then.
Yeah.
Cool. What I also wanted to ask you was, for individuals who are aspiring to build a career in the space industry, what can they do? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think what we have seen is that inspiration is super important.
Yeah.
And so even if people have no background in space, I think if they are interested in and really passionate about it, they should not fear trying. I think many people have a bad perception that you need to be a sort of small Einstein to do something in space, which is not true. I think the space sector requires a vast variety of types of talents and profiles, and you don't necessarily need to be a sort of super specialized scientist to do something.
Okay.
To the contrary, and sometimes, a few companies say that as well. They say sometimes this sort of space engineers element is a bit sort of overshooting.
Okay.
Because at the end they need engineers in mechanics, in software, in communication, etc. And the space aspect is just to understand, in which environment these things happen. But at the end, a satellite is a mechanical structure in which you put electronics.
Yeah.
Maybe I simplify a bit, but just to show that you don't need to be, a genius to work in space. If you are passionate and interested in it, and this inspires you, I mean, you should try. You should not fear to try.
Cool. And hopefully your path inspires more people to open the door and walk into the world of space.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, Marc, this has been a delightful conversation. Thank you very, very much for taking your time and talking to us.
Thank you as well. Thank you.